There you are. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 2021 Yale University Community Breakfast. My name is Karen King. The Office of New Haven Affairs hosts these community breakfasts on the first Thursday of every month at 8 a.m. We are, for the time being, hosting these events by Zoom. The link changes every month, so if you are not already on our email distribution list, please drop your email address in the chat and I will add you to our list so you can continue to join us every month. I have a few announcements before we get started. I want to remind everyone that Yale University in April created the Yale Community Furniture Fund. This was set up in response to the pandemic and the negative effects that New Haven residents were experiencing as a result of the pandemic. There is a dedicated team on the advisory committee that reviews each and every request for a donation from local nonprofits. Local nonprofits, especially nonprofits who have not applied to the Yale Community for New Haven Fund, are encouraged to apply. We still have funding available. The funding is set up to support the basic needs of New Haven residents who are negatively impacted by the pandemic. So the areas of food, health. On my screen, which you should see, is the Yale Community for New Haven Fund page. On this page is a bit of information about the fund. There's also an application to apply. And then you will see the donations that have been made to date in various categories. The university has donated about just over $2.3 million to over 100 New Haven nonprofits. And again, we still have funding available, especially for first-time applicants. I want to remind you that the Yale New Haven Hiring Initiative is going strong. There's another strong and dedicated team there led by Chris Brown, who was on our call this morning. I will share this link in the chat as well to the New Haven Hiring Initiative page. There are great resources there. It's also a great place for you to start if you are interested in applying for positions at Yale. There's great information here as well. So I encourage you all to check out their page. The Yale Center for British Art has a new executive director. They also are sharing, we'll have a ton of interesting and exciting programming coming up during her tenure, we're sure. One of the programs that has recently been created is The View from Here. It's a photography class that's open to New Haven high school students in grades 11 to 12. Anyone who has recently graduated, even with a GED, students who are taking a gap year after high school, and first year undergrads at local colleges. No photography experience is applied. This is really designed to introduce students to the photography and art. All materials will be provided. And at the end of the 4+ month program, which meets about once a week, students who have been engaged will receive a stipend of $500. There is an application online. It is due January 22nd. I will put the link here in the chat so that you can get some more information about that. That looks like a fantastic program. On to this month's wonderful speaker. Dean Reese Nelson began her tenure as director of the Afro-American Cultural Center at Yale in August 2015. She has since orchestrated a renaissance at the house by reinvigorating community building efforts, increasing programming and student engagement through strategic initiatives and student success programs, and championing student wellness and social justice efforts. Dee Nelson was previously at Cornell, where she served since 2012 as Director of Student Success Programs in the university's Office of Academic Diversity Initiatives. In that role, and another, she is held at Mercy College, Loyola University, the University of Notre Dame, St. John's University, and Columbia. She worked to equip students to make the transition to college, to develop them as scholars and leaders, and to prepare them for postgraduate success. Her focus for the past decade has been on providing students with advising, advocacy, academics, financial assistance, professional development, and scholarly and cultural opportunities. Dee Nelson earned her master's from Teachers College at Columbia in higher and post-secondary education, and her bachelor's from Northeastern in English and multi-ethnic American studies. Dee Nelson is proud to be the house's first director who was raised right here in New Haven. Please welcome Dean Reese Nelson.
Thank you for the applause. Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to see so many of you here this morning, many familiar faces and names of those of you who are a little camera shy this morning. I get it. It's pretty early. But Steve, I see you, Chris, Shawna, Lish, thank you folks for being here. I want to start off with Happy New Year greetings, of course, but also just a deep breath. So if we can just take a moment and everybody just stop, kind of center yourself and breathe. We ended 2020 thinking, okay, 2021 is here. It's here. You know, and we all knew that it was just a page turning, a calendar page turning, and that, you know, things aren't going to change immediately overnight. Felt for a moment like we had some reprieve, and we had a few days of some brightness, some levity. And yesterday's insurrection and the aftermath to come, it's just pretty, well, certainly not shocking, not surprising. I would hope to anyone. Yes, this is America. And I think white privilege was on full display. But what was also on display so beautifully was how Black people came together, how Black people strategized and organized and mobilized to make history, and to serve not just our community, but our country. And I want to especially shout out the Black women and one of our alums, Stacey Abrams, for being integral in that work. I want to thank you all again for being here and for staying hopeful. I know times, again, it's rough. It's really rough. We have a lot of work ahead, a lot of work to do. And so I hope you all, the students at Yale don't come back until February 1st, or classes at least don't start until February 1st. And so my hope is, you know, for those of you who are affiliated with the university or Yale College, that you will continue to take a little bit of downtime before we get back into things full swing, and that we just persevere and we push through and we hold on to each other as we do. So I am going to share my screen. I'm going to see how this works. Karen, if you can let me know if you are able to see this okay. Let me just go over here. Share.
Perfect. It
Okay.
is coming through.
So let me do this. Okay, so you can see that? Great. So again, Reese Nelson, I serve as the director of the Afro-American Cultural Center at Yale, which we simply call, affectionately call, the house, the AFAM house, the Afro-Am. So you'll hear me referring to it as the house mostly throughout this presentation. And obviously it's called the house because it is meant to be a home away from home for Yale's Black students, but also for all of those who wish to learn about and celebrate the histories and traditions of the African diaspora. So just to provide you with a little overview, I'll share a little bit about me. I don't know everyone on the line, but I'll share a little bit about my background and how I came to find myself in this role. I'll talk about the house, including the history, just some context and background. I'll talk about our programming, our resources and services, and really within that area, I'll talk about community engagement and how you might be able to get involved with us. I'll also talk about my decanal role and my work with the overall university and with Yale College Dean's Office. I'll talk about upcoming events, and then hopefully we'll have some time for discussion. So a little bit about me. Again, I am the first and only director of the house to have been raised in New Haven, and I am extraordinarily proud of that. I actually grew up going to the house for different events, whether it was lectures or parties or what have you. So it was pretty surreal to be at the helm of this amazing institution. Probably the most important thing that folks should know about me is I'm a mother, and my 14-year-old is in the other room in his classes right now remotely. He's just started his first year at Cross. Um, I went into, a lot of people ask me how I got into higher education. A lot of people fall into, just kind of naturally fall into student affairs or college administration. And I always credit my high school experience as for the motivation um, in my work. I went to West Hills. Many of you may know West Hills. Now it's Conti West Hills, but I started off at West Hills, which was very obviously very racially diverse, probably half students of color, half white. I ended up going for high school to Hopkins School. It was, I will say, not my first choice. I was a little disgruntled to be going there. I was concerned about going to a private school. But my best friends from West Hills were going there. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go and hang out with y'all too. So I went there, and based on our experiences there, as a 13-year-old, I decided that I was going to go into multicultural affairs. It was a culture shock. I was one of 6 Black students in that class, and that was also a shock to the system there and to their culture there, and a lot of growing pains. And I really credit the students, the student leaders, and our families and caregivers, and also some of the Hopkins administrators and faculty for pushing forward a lot of the diversity and inclusion efforts that they have really embraced now. And it's been phenomenal to see some of the changes come about. But I will say that it was tough for me. I would not change my experience. A lot of people say, would you do it again? Yes, I would. I had an incredible education, an unparalleled education, and I'm extremely grateful for everything I received from Hopkins, and the experiences and I would say wisdom, even as a high schooler, that I gained about the world through Hopkins. But it did set me on my path. I started off at Wesleyan, and then I finished up at Northeastern. And again, I was in English. I was an English major. I also self-designed. My major, my second major, which was multi-ethnic American studies, in preparation for a career in multicultural affairs. I went to Columbia University, Teachers College, specifically for student affairs. And then I worked through a number of different universities on the East Coast and then Midwest, mostly in multicultural affairs, which later made the change to the name Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, so DEI, and now B as well for belonging. And again, I was at Cornell up until 2015. I actually was working with the interim director of the house. I would bring her up to speak to my students there about how to successfully apply to and select graduate schools. And we were talking about this position. I said, I'm going to throw my hat in. And it was a quick process, and I found myself here in July 31st, 2015. And many of you, I'm sure, remember that time of the fall, especially October and November of 2015. That was quite an introduction to Yale, quite an orientation to all things, Yale University, Yale College, and wasn't really expecting it, but hit the ground running. And I think that we made great strides. The students, leaders, and I, the alumni, the faculty, the community members who were partnering with us all on pushing the university to become a more inclusive space. So a little bit about the house, just in terms of the context and background. So history, I was just talking about student activism in 2015 and 2016. And very similarly, the House was born of student activism, and it's rooted in intellectualism and race-based political consciousness. There's a deep sense of collective responsibility and community outreach, and in cultural pride and artistic expression. The House was created at the height of the Black arts movement, the height of the Black Power movement, and it was our students, especially in the Black Student Alliance at Yale, then called BSAY, now BSAY, who pushed the university again to create the Department of African-American Studies, well, now Department, and the Afro-American Cultural Center. It was situated originally on Chapel, and then we moved to its current location, 211 Park Street, in 1970. And at that time, it was kind of the periphery of campus. And it was selected, this location was selected because the House was meant to be, and the students designed it this way, to be a bridge between Black Yale and Black New Haven. And so that is something that I really take pride in and really want to cultivate through all of the work that we do. So again, it was established in 1969, and our mission is the Afro-American Cultural Center at Yale has a rich history of serving as Yale's home away from home for its Black student body and all people. I emphasize that all people who wish to learn about and celebrate the cultures and traditions of the African diaspora. The House facilitates its community members' success in the areas of scholarship, leadership, service, and advocacy through advising, empowerment, cultural enrichment, educational programming, social development, and career preparation. We seek to foster a vibrant community of Black scholar leaders and others who are committed to preserving and promoting the historical, cultural, intellectual, and social movement traditions of the African diaspora at Yale, in New Haven, and throughout the world. And I will say that the goals that we have set out and kind of revised and redesigned for today's House were informed by and strongly influenced by the original goals of the House. So I took the House founders' vision, and I also took the 2014 final report that was delivered by the Consultation Committee on the Cultural Centers to provide a kind of structure that I'll talk about in a moment. Oops, sorry. There we go. Okay. I also want to talk about, I get a lot of questions about the demographics, and I want to talk a bit about that. Obviously, we are in a different kind of year. The class of 2024, we have 1,275 first years enrolled. 54% of those students identify as students of color. 19% are first generation college students. 20% are Pell eligible or coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. 53% receive financial aid. 8% are legacy students, and 13% identify as Black and or African American. Last year, we had a total of just about 5,300 undergraduates enrolled. About 15% of that, 811 students identified as Black on the undergraduate side. 2019 to 2020, we had about 6,000 undergraduates enrolled, 883 identified as Black, which is about 14%. And of the entire university, 13,609 students were enrolled and 7.7% were Black. So I often get the question about the demographics, and honestly now I think it's kind of a shock to some people to hear that right now our incoming classes are 50 to 55% students of color, that many are the first in their families to attend a four-year college, that many are coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And that really, I want to credit the Office of Undergraduate Admissions for that. I think they've done an incredible job. Dean Quinlan and his staff really have worked very hard to bring in a more diverse cohort every single year that is reflective of our nation and our world. I will say that the college has 4 cultural centers. So the House, again, the Afro-American Cultural Center, is the first cultural center of the 4 at Yale. It is the first Black cultural center in the Ivy League. It is one of the first in the nation. There's also La Casa Cultural, which was created 5 years later, and that's for students who identify as Latinx. And then our Asian American Cultural Center, the AACC, was established in 1981, and the Native American Cultural Center was established in 1993. They are all on Crown Street, right next to each other. And so they're just around the corner and a short walk away from us. There are also other affinity spaces with whom we work. The Office of LGBTQ Resources, the Office for International Students and Scholars, University Chaplain's Office, the Women's Center, and the Slivka Center for Jewish Life, which is independent of Yale, but affiliated as well. We also work with different graduate and professional schools, and most of the areas have now DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion staff members who we often liaise with and collaborate with. We are based under, the cultural centers are based under student engagement in the Yale College Dean's Office. For those of you who have attended our events at the house, or who have gone to our social media, our website, you might be surprised that the staff is very small. When I first got here in 2015, I was the only professional staff member as the director. And then in 2016, due to student activism and really their push, their call for increased support for the professional staff members of the cultural centers, we were allowed to get assistant directors, which has been the game changer, has been life-changing to be able to have this extra layer of support and community as well. But we have at the house 28 student assistants. 12 of those are peer liaisons. And so these are mentors, student mentors, upper level mentors who work to kind of guide and mentor our first year students to Yale and to New Haven. I'm going to go through these slides very, very quickly. I can also share this with you all, if anyone, this presentation with you all, if anyone is interested. But since you are not able to go into the house, I wanted to give you kind of a feel for our space. We, in March, are going to try to have a spring reception for community leaders and other folks in the community who would like to see our space. Obviously, it will be socially distanced, but we are very excited to get back into the space. It's been closed since last March. So this is what it looks like. It used to be a fraternity lodge. We have the founders room, which is on the first floor, it's one of the smaller banquet rooms, and this is named after our founders, Donald Ogilvie, Armstead Robinson, and Glendy Chabert. We have the E room, which is just simply the enormous room. And this is where we hold, many of you I'm sure have been here for different lectures or parties as well. And we have the kitchen there. We have an art gallery. We have a library. We have on the ground level, we have what's called the Purple Room. And this is kind of our wellness space. Students can just go there and hang out. We have the Lighton Room, named after Bill Lighton and Jennifer Lighton. Two of our alums who are very supportive of our work. And this is used for different organization meetings. We also have the mural room, which is a meeting space as well. And want to go over some of our programming areas. So just an overview quickly, we have new student outreach and programming. And then we have, sorry, I'm hearing my son in the back. And then we have student success programming. We have student leadership development, intercultural and social justice programming. We have our civic engagement and experiential learning initiatives. And we have our general events and traditions. With our new student outreach and programming area, we have a host of events that we do with admissions and just generally in our house for pre-college and prospective students. And so we have hosted hundreds of students each year, ranging from kindergartners to high school students who come to the house as one of the historic landmarks at Yale and in the area, for house and campus tours and for panel discussions with our students. We have a multicultural open house in the fall, and we also have Bulldog Days in the spring. We host a number of new student events. We work with our Yale Black Alumni Association to welcome our students who come in. We have affinity receptions for students who identify as Black and other identities. And so we want them to really embrace their intersecting identities and experiences and know that that is, their full expression of their emerging selves, their growing identities, and their Blackness. So for LGBTQ students, for our international students, student athletes, multiracial and transracially adopted students, our graduate students, and professional students. We also have a few events in the fall to welcome our students in a more, and their families and caregivers as well, in a more formal way. We have our student success programming area. So we focus on scholarship and research. We offer a number of workshops to help our students build in their academic success, get acquainted with study abroad, get involved in summer sessions. We have a History Keepers program that I established with the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. And this is basically to preserve the house's history. We do have archives at Sterling, and so the students have been working over the past few years. We did put things on pause this past year, but we wanted to make sure that we were preserving our history and being able to pass this on. We also host a number of professional development workshops and events. We offer grant funding and referrals for students. And then importantly, as a part of student success programming, we have our wellness initiatives. When I came here, one of the things that I noticed was that our students are, this is a pressure cooker, and our students are extraordinarily bright, extraordinarily accomplished and committed, but sometimes that aspect of wellness and self-care was not the priority. And we want them to graduate, and we want them to graduate as whole individuals and well individuals. So I created this area of our wellness initiatives. We have our student leadership development area as well. We have about 35 student groups, undergraduate, graduate, and professional student organizations that are focused on politics, culture, the arts, academics, service. We also have affiliated 4 Black Greek Life organizations. So I work to revive, I'm not Greek, but we revived Black Greek Life through the house. We host a number of different conferences through these organizations as well. So for example, we have the Yale Africa Week in the fall, which is sponsored by YASA, the Yale African Student Association. We have the Yale Association for African Peace and Development. And we have the the Black Solidarity Conference, which is the largest Black student-led leadership conference in North America. We have about 700 students who come from colleges across the US and Canada. All of these student organizations are, they do receive different benefits from the house as being residents and affiliated with us, but we do expect them to adhere to a number of different goals and expectations and uphold the house's mission. We also meet with the students on a regular basis for advising, communications, and offer them funding. We have our intercultural and social justice programming area. And so in this, we do intercultural center programming. So again, we work with other cultural centers and other affinity offices and centers across campus, and then and other departments as well. We have our Mlk Celebrations and Commemoration. This is both at the house and for the university. So I chair the university's Mlk Commemoration planning. And then we also have Black History programming. We do this year round. A lot of people expect that we're just going to do it in February, the shortest month of the year. No. We do Black History programming throughout the year. And we also have an area, civic engagement and experiential learning. So under this area, I was mentioning earlier that I really wanted to rebuild the relationships between the house and especially our students and student organizations with the New Haven community. And so I kind of designed this area to bring that about. So we have a number of engagement and partnership opportunities. folks in the area can use our space for events, rent it out for meetings or fundraisers, etc. We have a newsletter also that you all can sign up for to learn a little bit more about what we are doing and how to get involved. We have a dance and drumming class right now. It is on pause, but that is offered during normal, quote unquote, normal times. We focus a lot on youth empowerment and outreach advocacy. And so we have done the higher education initiative where our students created workshops for youth who are in the foster care system on post-secondary and career opportunities. We have an organization that actually predates the House by 1 year called the Urban Improvement Corps, UIC, that's based in the House. And this organization is student-led and provides mentoring and tutoring for kids K through 12. It's completely free. And then again, we have different MLK events. And so I have brought, let me see, a few years ago, I brought about 1,000 students to our high school students to one of the MLK events that we had featuring Bree Newsome. We also do experiential and service learning opportunities. And so in 2018, I brought, 13 students to Brazil. And then in 2019, I brought 18 students to Ghana. We were exploring African and African-American and Black diasporic histories in these areas, but we've also done a number of domestic trips as well as service learning and community outreach events. So just in November, actually, we did a service event on the Green. We did a Thanksgiving dinner for about 100, just over 100 folks who found themselves in the tough position of not having a home. And so frequently we will do service events, we will do events that just bring folks together in celebration or in recognition of where we are in time and build community. We also have our events and traditions, and many of these are free and open to the public. As I mentioned, we have our send-off events for our incoming students. We do a welcome back barbecue. We have our Jubilee New Student Welcome Ceremony, Family and Friends Weekend. Many of you may have come to the tailgate that I put on during Harvard Yale. This is open to everyone. We usually have about 2,000 people come out, and again, it's free. It's a huge party. We will be having it hopefully again pretty soon, the next couple of years. And so if you have not been, I encourage you to come out and celebrate with us. We close that off with a Thanksgiving dinner as well. We do a winter formal. And again, in the spring, I mentioned we have the Mlk Commemoration and celebrations. We do Black History Month. We have a Black Women's Retreat that I started in 2016, and that's annual. We have our Boucher Ball and Award Ceremony, Black Graduates Celebration, which is held at Battelle. This is also open for the community to attend. We have about 1,200 people attend that now. And we do alumni reunions and then center anniversaries as well, which I'll talk about soon. In terms of our resources and services, we obviously offer to our students and student organizations a lot of advising, mentoring, referrals. We are easily accessible, i.e. my students, my number just gets around to everybody. And so I am frequently texting with the students or calling them. We are on GroupMe. I have open office hours, as does Sophia Lekram, who is our assistant director. We do letters of recommendation, employment verification. I mentioned that we have student and organizational funding for our students. We oftentimes will provide sponsorship and funding for local nonprofits and other organizations for their work. We offer space, free reservations, or very heavily discounted reservation fees. We have the art gallery, which features local artists' work. We have our library, and people can take out books. And we have a computing and printing area as well. Like I mentioned, we have our archives based in the Sterling Library. We also have some of the archives at the house. We do wellness workshops and dance and drum classes that are available for the community as well. And then we have a whole host of communication methods, modes. And so you can find us on our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We have a website that you can check out. We also have a podcast that comes out just about monthly. We do newsletters semesterly. There's a local community one specifically for local folks that comes out monthly and is put together by Jalen, one of our amazing student assistants. We have AV equipment. We offer security for our students. And then we also, for resource development, many of you have seen our shirts with the Kente Y. That is one of our fundraising streams. All of the money that we make from that and other efforts go right back to supporting our students in the programming and academic and professional opportunities that they pursue. And again, we pursue general outreach and partnership development. So that's with alumni, local community members, faculty and administrators, staff, and then family and caregivers outreach. So that was all my work as the director of the house. I also am assistant dean of Yale College, and as a part of my decanal responsibilities, I chair the Intercultural Affairs Council, or the IAC, and this really is a council of administrators who are working in similar offices or affinity spaces to talk about the college's vision and work towards their DEI goals. Then we have the STARS program. This is a STEM-based program for students of color to prepare them for postgraduate study. And then again, I was mentioning I put on the university's Mlk Commemoration, and I also have extended the Black History Month events into a larger university-wide and community-wide areas. So many of you were there for Angela Davis, Nikki Giovanni last year, Cornell West, Cornell Brooks. That was the work of me and my amazing planning committee for our Mlk Commemoration. I also do a lot of bias reporting and response. Crisis management is a big part of my job. I serve on admissions and different search committees. I do a lot of outreach and development with our alumni. We have about 13,000 alumni who I reach out to pretty regularly. We have the board of trustees and senior leaders who sometimes call on me and my colleagues in the cultural centers to discuss DEI issues, what's happening on campus or in the world. And I also am a proud fellow of Pearson College. And so through that, I do advising, and I'm a part of the fellowship there. As we close out, I just want to talk about some of the upcoming events that we have. Our students with the Yale Black Women's Coalition, YBWC. They are working with the House on putting together an inauguration watch party. This will be available and open to all. As I mentioned, we have the Mlk Commemoration. This will be on January 27th, 7:15. This will be featuring Patrisse Cullors, who is the one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and Yamiche Alcindor, who's a White House correspondent. We will have our Black History Month calendar of events rolling out pretty soon. And then importantly, I will ask that you all save the date for our 50th anniversary celebration, or AFAM 50. This had to be rescheduled. It was going to be April of 2020, and it is now going to be October of 2021, but it's going to be a major, beautiful, beautiful event that celebrates the accomplishments of the House community, and kind of explores where we are as a community right now and in the world. I will say stay connected for sure. Here's all of our information. Like I said, I can send this out to all of you. And if you want to sign up for the newsletter, it's just simple, send us an email and we can get that out to you. And so let me stop sharing. Let's see. Okay, there we go. And now I'm just going to open it up for any questions that you all might have.
Everyone has the ability to mute themselves. I ask is, after you ask your question, please go back to mute. You can also raise your hand. I can call on you. But we're all polite here, so you can just get started with any questions you may have. And thank you, Risa. Always
Yeah,
awesome
yeah.
to hear you speak.
Yes.
Good morning. I have a question. This is Veronica Shaw from Hope Incorporated. We're a local nonprofit in New Haven. And you mentioned, thank you for the presentation. I've learned, I've also grown up in New Haven and been to a couple of AFAM parties, but this was like for all of the things that you guys do. But so we have a program that we're starting. It's just going to go from now to the end of March, and it's basically addressing mental wellness during this time of racial inequality and distance learning and distancing from each other. And so we have a piece of it that will be tutoring for grades K through 12. So is there a way to work with you guys to get tutors for that piece of the program?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. If you can just send me an email at afamhouse@yale.edu. So we have our community development area. Jalen King is one of our student assistants, and he's been phenomenal. He's worked with us for 2 years now, and in this role, and he's been really, really phenomenal in getting our students connected in different ways: mentoring, tutoring, general outreach, service, etc. So we can get right on that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Can you give me that email address again? I'll put it in the chat.
AFAM House, AFAM House at Yale.edu.
Okay.
I just want to say that, I mean, I'm really impressed with how the Afro-Am Center has grown. My God, you cover so much. I'm from the Don Ogilvy era, so where all he had was him and a secretary.
Yes.
So
yes.
I can't encompass everything that you guys do now. Congratulations! Yeah. I'm just speechless.
Thank you. You know, it's funny. A lot of our alums, when they come back, especially from that area, are absolutely shocked, and at how much we do, at how wide our reach is, and they're like, we didn't have any of this when we were here. And the student affairs and college administration, higher education has grown tremendously. I mean, even in the past 5 years, we've added on at the house to the different offerings, to the resources and services that we've been able to provide to the students. And that comes from, the support of our alums, that comes from the support of the university. And so we really want to create a holistic experience, one that is supportive and empowering to not just our students, but to all who come to the house. All are welcome. I always say this is a home away from home for our Black students, but I think people are oftentimes kind of surprised at how multicultural and interfaith the house is, especially in terms of its organizations and its offerings, its audience, its reach. And whether it's for alums who are visiting again or coming back, for the first time in 50 years, even those who said, I wasn't really involved as a student with the house, but I like to see what's going on right now. And, I invite folks over. And same thing for our community members. A lot of us grew up here. We went to the parties, we had a good time. And a lot of people remember the house for to be a gathering space, a place of celebration and community building, and certainly activism. And when I came here, I was seeing all of these things still happening, still going on, but I wanted to kind of structure and formalize these different happenings, these different events and offerings, resources. And services in this way, so that people can see a little more clearly what the organization of it all is, and how they can plug in whatever way, and if someone wants to come to one event, or if somebody wants to be there every day, that's available. There's different levels of involvement, and all of it is a wonderful thing that we support. And thank you for the kudos. We have a very hardworking staff. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. Um,
Hey, cuz.
Hi, cuz. I am Shawna Melton. I am a poet and painter in Bridgeport, but I'm also Dee Nelson's cousin. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. You are doing so much. And I remember because we went to Northeastern together, and you've been doing this kind of activism since then, and turning it into your career and your life, and hearing that resume of all the ways you've been impacting people is just, I'm proud to be your cousin. And then, and additionally, just the fact that you're preserving that history. I've been working with the Freeman Center, preserving the houses for Little Liberia, and seeing how it aligns with New Haven, and seeing how Black people in Connecticut have been so impactful in our own freedoms. And so doing this kind of work is not a small task. And I'm so thankful to be here, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
Hi, Risë, it's Fallon. How are you?
Hi.
Good. Excellent presentation. And I just wanted to ask, as a New Haven resident and an employee of Yale, I've been able to have the privilege to experience the house in many directions. As a youth, going to the parties, as everyone would say, and then also through mentorship and, cultural experiences, and also the collaborations with Yale's African-American Affinity Group as an employee. As a bridge to the New Haven community, during your tenure, what would you say the most impactful programming the house has put out there to bridge the community during your tenure?
Oh, there's so much. There's so much that we have done. I a few things I'll say. One would be, or one area would be the large scale events that we have had, where I mentioned earlier, I was able to bring 1,000 students, high school students. We sponsored it through the house and through the Mlk Commemoration team, where we were able to bring them from their high schools, bus them over to Battelle and hear our speaker, Bree Newsome, that year. I think of Angela Davis, the fact that I was able to very quickly move that over from Battelle to Woolsey, because it just grew and grew and grew. And to see this, again, multicultural, multi-generation community come together, and people from all different political backgrounds and ideologies, from New Haven, our alums, just different folks. The number of emails I got after that, talking about how impactful that was on how people saw Yale, and how people saw also her work and her research and scholarship and her contributions to our world. That was tremendous. But I also think about, I did a Black Panther party, when the film came out. We did, it was President's Weekend. And so I took, we had maybe about 50 students that we rented out the theater for, and they just loved it. They loved it. And we had a party back at the house. And then we also had follow-up talkbacks and discussions with them on Blackness in America, on Black identity. And so to engage with, middle and high school students around their identity development and where they see us going, that's been phenomenal. I think about, the protests that were in 2015 to 16, that were in, 2019, where our students and community members took to the streets and called for holding our university and each other accountable, and sought together to really push people to do better, to think broader, to think more inclusively, to commit to prioritize this notion of DEI and belonging. And I think that it's because of the work of our community members and our students, our student organizations, our student leaders, that we are where we are as a university in terms of DEI efforts. And I'll also, shout out to our alums who also led that work, a lot of the work in 2015, 2016, 2017, to provide different recommendations for the university for their consideration. So, it's like I was mentioning, it's been a holistic, very comprehensive approach. I've tried to reach as many people as possible. I try to make our events as accessible as possible, whether that's, and they're all free, whether that is, virtual now. I mean, that's actually been the upside of things, that we've been able to provide, we've been able to reach so many more folks across the nation, and not just Yale students and alums, not just New Haven folks, but also this broader community in the nation and the world. I'll also say that when we first went into lockdown, I was very concerned about wellness for not just our students, but our community, the Black community, especially as we went into, as we saw this growth of a global movement for Black lives. And we worked with One Village Healing to provide a number of workshops, yoga, healing circles, different healing modalities for folks, all free of charge, and really promoted their work that they're doing, Taymet and Hanifa, to an even broader audience. So I think those collaborations speak to the spirit of the house, the house's founders. Again, speaking of Don Ogilvy, the original vision and spirit of the house to reach as many people as possible in the coalition of Blackness and solidarity in Blackness, in pride, in excellence, in all that we do, in education, empowerment, advocacy, and I mean, there's so many examples that I could give, but those are some that really stand out to me. Seeing thousands and thousands of people come together through the house's work, our efforts. It's been, and especially as somebody from New Haven, it's been phenomenal.
Thank you. I definitely have fostered a deeper sense of pride as an employee and a resident through all of my engagement with the house. And I just wanted to give you that spotlight to shout out and name again what you have done for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple of related questions in chat. One person is interested in learning a bit more about the programming in the art gallery, library, etc. And another really misses the house in-person events, and they're interested to know what you're continuing virtually.
Yeah, that's been really, really tough. That's been really tough to not be in person and to be able to share that energy with one another and connect in that way. So everything continues virtually. As I mentioned, January 27th, we have the Mlk Commemoration. We'll also have different events happening later in January, and then we'll move into Black History Month. Definitely sign up for the newsletter, the community newsletter, because I'll be able to send you all of the information. It'll also be on our website for how to get involved with these events. It'll be through registration. In terms of and honestly, right now, given where we are with COVID, we don't know when we are going to reopen the house. COVID disproportionately impacted Black communities. I want to be very, very careful. I always tell people that Being at the helm of the house, directing the house is a constant vigil. I am very protective of our students and all of those who come to the house for whatever reason. And I don't want to unnecessarily put our community in harm's way. For a party or a lecture. If we can hold it safely online, we will continue to do that until COVID is we're a little more secure with this. The art space, once we do reopen, we have semesterly exhibitions that feature student and local artists' work, and we have student assistants, graduate assistant, and student assistant. Grad student is usually based in the School of Art, who coordinate these different events. So that's one way how to get involved. And actually, Shawna was featured in 2016. As a part of Black History Month, along with a number of other local artists. So lots of ways to get involved. And you don't need to, when the house is open, you don't need to make an appointment to come in. You literally just walk in, and it is your space. You can come in for a cup of coffee, some tea. People are just hanging out, sitting around, or studying, or reading, or what have you. It's open.
Good time for one more question. Oh, did I hear someone?
You heard Shawna. When you think about the events of yesterday, and I'm thinking about what you're talking about with wellness, and just hearing and seeing the conversations about, when Black Lives Matter was out there, it was violent, and then they can tear this whole place up and nothing happens. In terms of wellness and the impact that has on the community, the Black community, Black student body. I know it's yesterday, but what might you consider in terms of being a leader towards wellness, and just how we deal with the impact that has on how we see ourselves in this country? Because I feel like a lot of people have been in denial, but so many things you can't deny, like the fact that if we took a step near that place like they did yesterday, it would have been a
Girl.
bloodbath.
Girl.
I'm just in terms of wellness, what are some ideas that you might have? It's early, I know.
Yeah, no, it's to me, it's actually not. It's not too early. I was mentioning that earlier. One of the things that I am often involved in is crisis management, is outreach. And so whenever something like this, and there have been many things like this throughout my 5.5 years or so here, I always reach out to the community. And so I had been in touch throughout the day with our students, our student staff, our student organizations, to talk about, one, prioritize your wellness and seek opportunities for joy, create joy, find joy wherever, however you can, and prioritize yourself. And self-care is the first thing. And so, for everybody here, however you identify, I think that is as we go through what will undoubtedly be some ongoing troubling times. Even when we inaugurate our new president, we are still in for the ride. Like, we still have work to do, and a lot to undo, right? And so at the forefront, I think we have to remember self-care, and we have to remember to find joy and to highlight the things that are really working. You're right. We can't deny what we all saw, right? I don't think it's surprising to any of us, though. And so I think for many of us, it's like, this is another day in America, and I'm going to go and read this book, or, I'm going to sit in meditation. I'm going to go do this dance class, this yoga class, what have you. Or I'm going to unplug from social media because it's just this barrage, of negativity. And there was still a lot of good that came out of yesterday that we can't, sweep to the side, that really does need to, look at Georgia. Look at Georgia. The milestones that we are reaching. I think that's what we need to hold on to. all of us, however we identify. But those are some of the things that I've been talking to the students. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, contacted my students down in DC, and I'm like, how are your people? Check on your people, don't go outside, etc. So it's, like I said, it is a constant vigil.
I agree.
Speaking of Georgia, I called a friend of mine in Atlanta late yesterday afternoon to thank him and everyone he knows in Georgia for making this happen.
Yes.
With the Senate.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Hallelujah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's hold on to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we want to thank Reese Nelson for joining us today. Thank you so much for all the information that you shared with us. I did share a couple of links there for you all to reach out to Dee Nelson and the House to get more information and sign up for newsletters. I will share Dee Nelson's PDF of a presentation with you all when we send out information about the next breakfast meeting. But again, thank you. Thank you, Dee Nelson, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We hope to see you next month.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you.
Everybody.